All right, hi guys. I am going to show you how to buff your metal. So the first thing you want to make sure to do is to sand your metal all the way to 600. Make sure that when you are sanding that you go all in one direction so that when you buff, those lines don't show up once you get that nice high shine. So this is the buffing wheel here. There's 2 wheels on each buffing wheel. The way that I have it set up is so that the right buffing wheel uses the blue compound. The left buffing wheel uses the white compound. They're essentially the same thing. They're going to do the same thing to your metal. The only reason why I want to keep them differentiated is because you should never use different compounds on the same wheel, okay? Because you don't want to mix the compounds. So you can kind of see like which wheel uses the blue. You can't so much see which one uses the white, but just know I'll label them. So blue is on the right, white is on the left. I am going to use the blue one, just because I'm a little closer there. So what the buffing wheel does is it creates a high shine on your metal. So when you go to sand, like this is like my back side that I didn't sand. This is the front side that I did sand. So you can see a pretty clear difference between the two. When you guys go to sand your metal, you definitely want to do both sides. I'm just choosing to do one because I want to show you what it's going to look like when you don't do a really good sanding job and polishing and buffing, and then what it looks like when you do sand really well and then go and buff. So safety for buffing wheel, same as like soldering or using the flex shaft, making sure that your hair's pulled back, you don't have anything dangly like your earbuds, drawstrings, anything like that. And then definitely safety glasses. I also recommend having one of these little small clamps around because the metal does get hot as like the friction from the wheel touches the metal. Over time it will get pretty toasty. So have that. I usually just start with it, especially since we're using copper, it's going to heat up pretty quick. Okay. So to start, you're just going to turn the dial. I usually turn to about like 12 o'clock, so the dial's like all the way up. Then you're going to take your compound, and you're putting the compound on the wheel, not on your metal. So you're just going to take the compound and just add a little bit to the wheel. The most important thing when you are using this buffing wheel is knowing that because it's rotating around, anything that touches the wheel, whether it's the compound or your metal, should always touch it on the bottom of the wheel. If you go in at the top, it's going to shoot it down. If you do that with your metal, it can shoot it down or shoot it out, which can be dangerous or wreck your metal. So always come from the bottom, okay? So I've added my compound. I'm going to set that aside. I have my, my metal clamped in, and then I'm just going to start by kind of pushing from the bottom. Haley, if you can't see, feel free to come around. So I'm just going to apply like quite a bit of pressure. And just kind of go back and forth. I'm going to turn my clamp a little bit. I'm also going to speed it up just a little bit. So right now I'm at about 2 o'clock. And now I'm starting to see that it's starting to shine up a little bit. I'm going to add just a little bit more compound. And as I go, I should really start to see it shine up. So I'm just going to go around until all of it is a lot shinier than it was at the start. You're really going to start to see that high shine come through. So it's still a little bit cloudy. That's because of the compound residue. Once I polish it, it'll give even more of that high shine. Okay. Now I'm going to flip it over, and I know that this side is not ready to buff, but I just want to show you what kind of a bad sanding job and like what a bad buffing job can kind of do to your metal. It's still going to shine it up, However, what's going to happen is if you didn't sand very well, those scratches from sanding are going to be left in your metal and you really can't get them out. All right. So before I walk away from the buffing wheel, I'm going to make sure to turn it off. I can take my safety glasses off. And then the next step is going to be to polish your metal, okay? Because you'll notice, especially if with your guys' pieces you have like a lot of pierced shapes, right? So that residue will like to like kind of sit in those little crevices. So polishing is really, really important to get rid of all that gunk. So you'll see like on your hands, it leaves like a really dark residue. So to polish, you're going to use semi-chrome polish, okay, and then a polishing rag. So polishing rags are right up there. You literally need a dot, okay? You're going to put one tiny little dot onto the polishing rag, not on your metal. Get this a little closer here. And then leave your metal on the polishing rag so that it doesn't get scratched up on the table. And then you're just simply going to rub and rub and rub. It's going to look like the rag has a bunch of black gunk on it. That's a good thing. It means that it's taking it off of the metal and putting it onto your rag, okay? So you can already see how much of a difference that's made, okay? And I'm only about halfway done. So I'm going to keep going. How do you know when you're done polishing? When there's no cloudiness or like residue left behind. You should have that nice high shine. You also want to make sure that you get your edges. So like those of you who are, well, all of you guys are working with pierce shapes, one thing that you can do to get into the pierce shapes to make sure that all the gunk's out of there and that you're like shining it up is to take one of your files and kind of wrap it around the polishing rag and use that as kind of a little tool to, like a utensil to get inside of those pierced shapes, okay? So see that nice high shine? Now if I flip it over, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Notice how like that one tiny little dot of semi-chrome polish goes a long way, right? So I would say your guys' pieces are probably like 2 times the size of this. So that one little dot could probably polish your whole one side, and then you'd need one tiny little dot for the back side. And pressure here is really key. If you're not applying a lot of pressure, you're not going to get that high shine. It's just going to stay kind of cloudy. All right, and then I'm going to go along the edges too and make sure that I get the edges that nice high shine. Okay, but you can see, now I'm noticing too, like I could have buffed a little bit more because there's still like a little bit of cloudiness in that middle, but you get that nice high shine. Now look at the back side. See how scratched up that is? So yeah, you still get an awesome, nice high shine, but if you don't sand well, those scratches are gonna show even more when you go to buff, okay? So the importance of sanding is really extreme here. You wanna make sure that you're really paying attention to sanding so you get that nice, shiny outcome that you want, okay? So in a nutshell, buffing is shining up your metal, giving you that nice high shine, cleaning it up, and then when you're polishing, just using a little tiny dot of that semi-chrome polish to really clean it up and get the compound off of your metal from buffing, okay?